TheorySabers.com. Today we're going to dive into a little bit of Quinlan Vos after the tragic events of Dark Disciple and kind of where he's going, what we've seen now with Disney, what they've done with him in the Kenobi show, and then further on with Tales of the Underworld. So after Dark Disciple, Quinlan Vos was left entirely broken. He just lost the love of his life, Asajj Ventress, the woman that he deeply cared for and never thought that he would, who sacrificed herself to save him from falling completely to the dark side. In her final moments, Ventress gave Quinlan something that the Jedi couldn't, a true chance at redemption. And what happened next? Where does Quinlan Vos go, and how does he cope with the overwhelming grief and guilt? Well, it seems like, according to the Kenobi show and according to Tales of the Underworld, is that he's essentially trying to find survivors from Order 66 and take them along the path. And what this is probably just some sort of a very secret hidden Jedi Academy or place where kids from Order 66 can be safe. Or kids that survived Order 66, I mean. That's at least my theory. And maybe that's where they're creating some sort of a secret army of Force users to perhaps protect themselves, combat the future of the Empire, or if Vader returns. Now first, let's quickly revisit the end of Dark Disciple, where Voss places Ventress's body into the mystical Sleeper's Pool on Dathomir, feeling the whispering voices of the Night Sisters, as the Force seemingly accepted her back into its embrace. This moment right here is what really forever changes Quinlan, and like Anakin Skywalker after Padme's death, Quinlan was consumed by guilt. He blamed himself deeply, questioning his decisions and struggling with the darkness within him. It very much reminded me of when Qui-Gon Jinn lost his love interest, Tal, and ended up kind of like literally falling to the dark side and just wandering the desert for days. When Quinlan returns to the Jedi Council, they were very, very wary of him. After all, he had been dangerously close to becoming Dooku's new apprentice, something that Obi-Wan vividly warned about. The council debated whether Quinlan could ever truly be trusted again. Eventually, they allowed him to remain, though under careful watch. This is kind of like what happened in distant EU from a game where Plo Koon used Force Lightning, called Force Judgment. The council questioned him like crazy about it, and in order to let him back, they had to go under this rigorous questionnaire sort of thing and just keep a very close eye on him, which is the same thing that they do with Quinlan. So eventually they allow him to remain through careful watch, but I mean, they had their own issues. The Clone Wars were raging on, and Order 66 would just about soon enough tear apart everything that they've built. They had bigger things to worry about. Now we know from canon, after the Obi-Wan show, that Master Quinlan Vos did survive Order 66. Now, in Revenge of the Sith, we also know that Quinlan Vos did survive, and this is when Obi-Wan Kenobi says to Anakin, Master Vos has moved his troops to Boz Pitti, confirming that he was active late in the Clone Wars. But the bigger question remains, how did he survive Palpatine's Jedi Purge? So, my theory is that Quinlan was unlike most Jedi. He was trained specifically in espionage, infiltration, and survival tactics, not to mention, of course, his power of psychometry could leave a trail of breadcrumbs of where an object has been. We saw his unique skills vividly in the Clone Wars, and then again in Dark Disciple. He has experience going undercover, operating under assumed identities, and most importantly, blending seamlessly into the galaxy's darkest corners. I mean, Qui-Gon didn't even notice him in The Phantom Menace, or maybe he did and he just, allowed him to continue his mission without blowing his cover. This level of expertise would have given him a huge advantage when Order 66 was executed. Now, while Jedi, like Ki-Adi-Mundi or Aayla Secura, were caught off guard, Quinlan Vos had an instinct for danger. He was always expecting something to go wrong. I always kind of saw Quinlan like a special ops military soldier. A deep connection with the Force that might have allowed him to foresee certain betrayal coming, or maybe touching an object that would give him some intel into something new happening. I think that Quinlan could have sensed Order 66, perhaps not the specifics, but at least the imminent threat. Kind of like Yoda did, but to a much lesser degree. He would have vanished into the shadows immediately. using his skills in deception to disappear completely, perhaps faking his death, or maybe even blending in among smugglers, bounty hunters, criminals, exactly as he had done before with Ventress. The guy definitely had more training with this than any other Jedi. Now, imagine Quinlan Vos, lurking in the underworld, operating from the shadows, always one step ahead of the Imperial forces. He might have even returned briefly to Dathomir, where he felt closest to Ventress. Maybe he stayed in hiding, using Dathomiri magic and teachings that he'd learned from Ventress, enhancing his connection to the Force beyond traditional Jedi teachings. Now, as we know, anything's possible. They might change a lot of stuff, but hey, if he starts using magic and the Force, I mean, that's probably what Bode's kid is going to learn in the new Jedi games. After all, Ventress did teach him darker, more primal ways of understanding the Force, making him uniquely powerful and uniquely suited to survive. Now, what if Quinlan in hiding crossed paths with other surviving Jedi? What if he met Ahsoka Tano? I can imagine them interacting, both having lost nearly everything and everyone, both walking away from the Jedi Order at different points in time, and both profoundly affected by betrayal. Ahsoka and Quinlan working together could have been a very unstoppable force against the Empire's Inquisitors, which is something that I'm thinking we're going to see in Ahsoka Season 2. Perhaps maybe they'll write a storyline that he could have assisted Ahsoka in helping other Jedi escape, or even aided Obi-Wan during his solitude on Tatooine. As we know, Stuart Beattie's script for Kenobi, the trilogy at least, was going to have Cody come back to Tatooine and watch over Luke when Obi-Wan went away. But what if they had Quinlan Vos come there and see if he's doing all right? Now, how he would know he's there, well, that's the kicker, really. It's Quinlan Vos could potentially be the only character that would be able to find out things that nobody else should know. I mean, heck, they've already ruined it. If Reva now knows that Anakin Skywalker is Vader and that Luke is his son being hidden on Tatooine, then I don't think it's really going to make much of a difference anymore. If Quinlan Vos knows that Obi-Wan is there too, why not? Obi-Wan knew of Quinlan's pain quite intimately, watching Anakin's fall to the darkness firsthand. So this could be a possible ally, maybe someone who would understand Obi-Wan during this exile. It would completely retcon what George wrote, but I think that's the name of the game at this point. There's even a possibility that Quinlan could eventually join the early Rebel Alliance. I feel like his espionage expertise would have made him a perfect person for intelligence and sabotage missions. Maybe even crossing paths with Saw Gerrera, who has his own extreme methods, which probably would have resonated with Voss's own experiences. And Quinlan was already quite familiar with walking a morally great path, so it could have significantly shaped the early rebel movement, influencing it in unseen ways. I'm just throwing different theories at you guys, and you let me know which one you actually like or which one you hate. And this idea of him with Saw Gerrera brings a very intriguing idea that could Quinlan Vos appear in future Star Wars films, or maybe even just shows? And this is why I'm really starting to think that he could be seen in Ahsoka Season 2, or maybe even Dave Filoni's movie. So forget Mando and Grogu, but this could be a perhaps segue. Well, you know what? Maybe even Mando and Grogu, where he's somewhere in the Underworld. Because we've now seen his return, or heard of his return in the Kenobi show, where Obi-Wan is like, oh, Quinlan's alive. And then we've also now got essentially an introduction of him at the end of Dark Disciple, at the start of Tales of the Underworld. So it seems like they're making quite the effort to bring Quinlan back around. And we know how much Lucasfilm loves bringing around old characters that have already set off into the sunset, but really at this point, who else do they have to bring back? They've kind of already ruined their own new ones. And I think if they're going to bring anybody back, it should be characters from the Clone Wars. And Quinlan would be primed for a return. I would imagine him appearing older, much more battle-hardened, scarred by loss, wise or even wiser, offering guidance to newer heroes like maybe Ezra Bridger, or mentoring, heck, you want to go that far, mentoring even Grogu himself in The Mandalorian. His lessons would come from a very uniquely balanced perspective, understanding the light side, the dark side, and the in-between, and then of course the teachings of Dathomir. His psychological journey after Dark Disciple is likely one of deep introspection, and this is something I think a lot of Jedi are missing. He would have grappled with guilt over Ventress's death daily, perhaps spending years searching for ways to atone, to maybe make her sacrifice a little more meaningful and less painful. His story, I think, kind of reflects Vader's journey. It's consumed by loss, it teeters between darkness and redemption, yet unlike Vader, Quinlan never fully surrendered to the darkness, only partially. He remained anchored by Ventress's love and sacrifice, constantly reminding himself of her final act to save him. Ultimately though, Quinlan is one of Star Wars' most complex characters that the mainstream don't really know about. His story didn't end with Dark Disciple, it simply, I would say, even kind of began. And we're all left in this ambiguous sort of train. We're like, where is he? What is he doing? How is he getting all of these kids to safety? Where is he taking them? How is he doing after Asajj's death? And it's kind of just been pushed under the rug and kind of, shrouded in mystery now. But maybe that's what makes Quinlan so fascinating, is that you don't know much about him. You don't know what happened to him. And maybe we shouldn't. But much like how Ahsoka and Obi-Wan have become this symbol of survival, redemption, hope amid darkness, Quinlan's story remains very open-ended, and it's filled with a lot of potential that they could take him in many different directions. Hopefully, it's just going to be a writer that actually knows his character, his story, and really cares about him. And maybe we'll get to see him in live action. But for now, I'm really enjoying the animated stuff. I feel like they don't miss too often when it comes to the animations. When it's live action, it's just, a completely different story. But the animated stuff, 90% of it, I feel like I'm really on board and I like it. But at the end of the day, I love reading your guys' comments. So let me know what you think happened to Quinlan Vos after Dark Disciple. How did he go on this journey of saving kids and, Order 66 survivors? Where does he take them? And could we see him again in the Star Wars universe in some sort of medium, either in the Ahsoka Season 2 show, Mando and Grogu, Dave Filoni's movie, or some new show, something beyond, heck, maybe even Andor, I don't know. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you're new here and hit like on your way out. I hope you enjoyed today's theory video and a little bit of an explanation of Quinlan. And I will see you guys in the next one. Until then, remember, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends, the Force will be with you, always.